the Democrats might win some, but they just lost one. Let me do that one more time. Democrats might win some, but they just lost one. She was the face of the Biden White House. Now she's calling it broken and walking away from the party for good. I'm talking about Karine Jean-Pierre. Karine Jean-Pierre is the first Black and the first openly LGBTQ White House press secretary. She's a big name. She's a big deal. And her story and her star got even bigger in certain ways because she just quit the Democratic Party. And she's dropping bombs in a new book. The bomb that set off this particular media frenzy is about leaving the Democratic Party. But that was far from everything. Look, the title of the book tells you the whole story. Independent, a look inside a broken White House outside the party lines. She says she watched the party turn on Joe Biden like a firing squad. And she said all of it happened after that debacle of a debate. Y'all know when he debated Donald Trump and looked lost and out of it and made a fool of himself in front of the globe. Yep. After that, when she said the party turned on Biden like a firing squad. The book promises to expose how the Biden inner circle worked overtime to cover up serious health issues, including a cancer diagnosis that had already spread. And while the media begged for honesty, Jean-Pierre says the White House tried to hide the truth. So now Jean-Pierre is walking away. She says America needs to break from the party lines and the party boxes. And she ain't the only one who says that now. A record 43% of Americans now call themselves independents, not Democrats or Republicans. I'll tell you what I think about that in a minute. But if the people inside the White House are saying it's broken and the party can't be trusted, that affects every vote, every policy, and every promise being made. Jean-Pierre's book will drop in the fall. And if her story hits like she says it will, it might change the way a whole generation sees power, sees politics, and maybe even party loyalty. So there's so many things to this story, right? And Karine Jean-Pierre has been through a lot. She has been disrespected. She has been mistreated in so many ways by the media that is, indisputable. There's racism, there's sexism, there's all the regular party BS, there's all the things. She ain't wrong. She's also not wrong that the Democratic Party absolutely turned on Joe Biden once he got dog walked in that debate with Donald Trump. I mean, you could say that that was the first day of the rest of his political life, or the last day of his political life, depending on how you think about it. But that's absolutely true. And I don't doubt anything she says about the cover-ups. Presidential administrations cover things up. White Houses cover things up. They do all they can to protect the president. Whoever the president at the time, they're going to be protected by the people around them. I don't doubt that that's true. And I don't disagree with her premise that we need to stop being so bitterly partisan. And we need to stop sort of holding on to Democrat and Republican as these necessary titles, particularly at a moment where most of America feels like that doesn't exactly cover or address who they are. All that's true. So yes, Madame Jean-Pierre, you are correct. Some other things to think about, though. First, yes, the Democratic Party did an about face on Joe Biden. But it's not enough to just say that, because that still feels very nebulous, very abstract, very slippery. No, we need to be very clear. The party honchos did this. They did it through Nancy Pelosi. They did it through Barack Obama. It was the heavyweights of the party who very clearly and very successfully got Joe Biden up out the paint. But it's not just that. It's that the Democratic Party has always operated outside the lines. They've always operated in ways that are counterproductive and anti-democratic. In other words, this ain't the first time. Bernie was robbed of 2 nominees or 2 nominations because they decided to circumvent justice. It ain't the first time. The desire to put Kamala up, which I suspect Karine Jean-Pierre would agree with, was circumventing the primary process. It was going around the conventions. All of these things are anti-democratic. So I'm just saying, let's not pretend that the only thing that happened here that was wrong, the only thing that happened here that kind of went around the voting interests of, or even the interests of the party honchos, the rank and file power base. It wasn't the first time when they decided to sell Joe Biden out. That was one of many. Let's also not pretend that Karine Jean-Pierre is a victim here. She was the face and the mouthpiece of the Biden White House. This is the same White House that allowed a genocide in Gaza to take place. This is the same White House that has allowed environmental abuses to happen. This is the same White House that has doubled down on Blue Lives Matter rhetoric at the expense of everyday people's sovereignty and safety. I mean, we're talking about a lot here that happened under the Biden regime. And Karine Jean-Pierre was the face and the mouthpiece of it. She was the biggest defender of it. Remember when they were just destroying Gaza, tearing it up, killing people, people were dying? She was the person basically saying, we support Israel, we support Israel, we support Israel, anything else is anti-Semitic. I mean, that's her. So it's sort of rich for her to say, oh, there's so many cover-ups, oh, there's so many betrayals, oh, there's so many violations of this and that. Everything that the Democratic Party did for the last 4 years, she's been a part of it. And I think we have to be honest about that. And so when she says, I'm breaking free and becoming independent, it just doesn't hit the same. Now, my sources, you can take this for whatever you think it's worth. My sources say Karine Jean-Pierre wrote this book in response to her inability to get a TV job. Now, again, doesn't mean she's wrong. I believe what she's saying in this book. But a lot of this is also her not getting what she thought she deserved, because Jen Psaki, she got a job at MSNBC, but where's Karine Jean-Pierre's? Well, you know, now why? I think there's some interesting answers to that. I think she deserved a whole lot more, but we always know there's a lot of factors that play out when this stuff comes together, other than just merit. That's the first thing. I think it's also important to think about this TV thing in relationship to who and what gets exposed. If you're saying, look, I'm burning this place down, everybody's under scrutiny, everybody's under attack, everybody's going to be held accountable, I'm like, cool. I don't necessarily like the I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm snitching on everybody approach, but hey, at least you're telling the truth. But there are just too many people here, based on what I've heard about the book and the excerpts that I've heard so far, there are too many instances where it still seems like she's protecting some powerful people on her side of the aisle. She's not an independent because she hates the corporate Democrats and the white supremacist Republicans. She's an independent so that she can make this strategic tactical move and look like she's being principled, when in fact she is part of the problem. She's also bright, by the way. The Democrats always have firing squads, and they typically are in a circle. The Democrats tend to eat their own at the expense of producing an actual candidate, not only that can win, but that should win. Sometimes they get winnable candidates who ain't about shit. Sometimes they get candidates who are about something who they push out. So again, Karine Jean-Pierre, she's introducing an important topic. I'm just not sure that she's the right messenger for this message.